Welcome to Extraordinary Talks. Here we have Tom Hudson, who is a holistic health coach. Tom, it's great to have you on the show today.
Yes, Jack, thank you for having me on. Ever since you invited me, I've been looking forward to today. So, yeah, excited to see what we're going to dive into and talk about.
Definitely. I'm just going to go straight off the bat here with quite a broad question. Because as we were saying before we actually got onto this show, we've actually never met before. So I think what would be quite nice is to actually get to know you through the podcast. So quite a broad question to start off with, but I mentioned you're a holistic health coach. Tell me your story. Like, how did you get into this industry? How did you get into this role, sort of thing?
Right, let's go way back then.
Yeah.
So, I suppose when I was going up through school, and I've talked about it on my channels about, I had body dysmorphia quite badly as a kid. And even from primary school, so it was as young as like being like 7 and 8. I remember it vividly, like really not happy with what I saw in the mirror. I'd go and train in my bedroom, or if I ate bad food, I'd like this really bad negative relationship with it. And when I got into more specific training as I got old enough to join the gym, it was like I can't explain the feeling, but it was a feeling of acceptance and home because it started to change. Even though I joined the gym to change my physical appearance, I got so much more from just proving I was capable of something. It took this. They say that self comparison is the thief of joy, and this feeling of comparing myself to other people who were like taller, bigger, because I was like quite small, slim but sort of chubby, terrible posture. It was sure. I was like, oh, I'm just like really badly given genetics from my parents, and that wasn't the case at all. It was just how I was perceiving myself, and I got into training and got into sport, got competitive, and I loved it because it was not about how I looked. It was about what I could actually do. And I know a lot of people that through my years now, almost through my 20s and now into my 30s, speaking with people and clients, everyone goes to the gym to change a physical aspect or a physical attribute. That's the motivator for it. But the longer people stick it out and stay in it, they realise of the benefit to their own mental state. And that was my biggest light bulb on moment that more people need to know about this because the pressures of social media now, you only have to turn on any of the social platforms and you'll see incredibly aesthetic looking men and women. And they're giving us like this standard of you need to look like this to be on this platform. And it's a shame because you can look good but not feel good. And I was probably one of those people. I probably, to other people, I may have looked relatively good. Yet I had such a low esteem, like self-perception of who I was. So the training was really great for me. And I took the going into like following it as a career. So did my personal training qualifications, gone into the higher levels. And then now I joined up with the Institute of Health, which is a functional medicine platform. Been with them for a year studying deep integrative health topics and more around health optimization with like blood work, labs, hormone analysis, dealing with health challenges and dysfunction. And I'm fascinated by anatomy and physiology of people, and it's led me to here. So if I can now take this to go and help somebody else and change their life, because I believe health is like true wealth, then that's why I'm pursuing it now.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a cool story. I think what's interesting is I feel like you've hit that sort of transition and identified it way before it's become popular. Because something I've noticed, and it's something we'll probably get onto a bit later, is that you're right. When people stick it out with going to the gym, eventually they stop caring about the physical benefits. Maybe because they've already got that, better body composition as such, and they then start to look towards the next challenge. But yeah, I've noticed a trend, and I myself is one of those people where I've kind of pivoted away from because I've stuck it out that long training for body competition. Composition. Sorry, I don't really care as much, and
Yeah.
I've pivoted now towards complete sort of health and being actual healthy as well. You were saying that you first went to the gym to train for body composition yourself, and then you pivoted yourself into like full health. With that, did you have like a certain stage where you were was it either you got to a point where you're happy with your body compositions, then you look towards the health, or did it just get to the point where you just realized body composition wasn't the overall thing? You didn't care about it as much, or was it kind of a bit of both?
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of both. For me, looking at it now, it was, like I say, starting out was all around body composition. But then I didn't have a love for bodybuilding.
Mm.
So to pursue something that in a desire that I would have no want to participate or compete in got me thinking, well, why am I doing that? So then when I realised that if I could train for performance-based goals and, still treat them seriously, still stay with the diet, still managing my sleep, the aesthetics come as like a nice sort of benefactor from it. And it takes the pressure off constantly feeling the need to look in the mirror and judge how I looked. Because that is all that drives social media nowadays. And I purposely try not to follow accounts that, it's all based around someone with the shirt or flexing. Now, if you're pursuing that as a career, you have no choice. You have to be critical on your physique, and you have to get feedback from those who are better than you or your coaches. Which, by all means, please do it. But then I look at it that most people also that get into training, their sense of reality is I've got to look like a bodybuilder. I've got to train like a bodybuilder. I've got to eat like a bodybuilder. And yet, there's no need. Take that pressure off yourself. Because most people that do weight training are just doing it because they're copying what everyone else does. Go and have fun. I will say to clients, if you don't enjoy weight training, you're either training wrong or it's not for you. And we need to find something that's going to work for you. If you say to me, oh, I love salsa dancing, go and do salsa dancing. That is still activity. Movement medicine doesn't matter where it's coming from. Go and do what you enjoy because then you'll stick to it. And that's the point with a lot of people. I think so many people just follow what they see as what everyone else does. And then this is why we get this roller coaster of a lot of motivation. They start great, they fall off, they go back to a worse position than before, and then health kick drive again at certain times of the year. They start again, great motivation. Comes to trying to stay to it, they don't enjoy it and they fall off again. And it's this yo-yo roller coaster of start and stop. So for me personally, I just think you have to do and find something that you genuinely enjoy and have a real goal behind it instead of just how you look in the mirror. Because you know and I know, how often do you walk around in the UK with your top off? Never. No, and not a single person is thinking, I wonder what he looks like with his top off. Not a single person. So chasing aesthetics is, in my opinion, it's really flawed. Unless it's 100% going to be your career, don't worry about it.
That is
It's
so true.
simple way to put it.
Yeah, I mean that's just such a great point. Like, when have you in your life have you ever walked past someone and go, "Oh, I wonder what they look like underneath"? Like you just you
Never.
never. It's ludicrous when you think about it. Um, identify so much. And I'm going to ask you a question on the back of this with what you said. When you go through more performance based stuff, you really start to lose the attachment to your physique and you feel so
Yeah.
much better about it. So I was, just for reference for people that's watching and for you, to be honest, because I haven't spoke to you about my sort of training. I know it's not about me, but just to give a bit of context. I started training properly weights when I was 18, when I went to uni. And to be honest, I didn't have any body dysmorphia, luckily. And I was very skinny, but I wasn't too bothered. I was just motivated by looking ripped and that sort of thing. So I did weight training for, well, yeah, I still do it now, but I done it like that bodybuilding style for about 4 years, up until maybe 5 years, up until about 23. And I noticed last year I was starting to lose a bit of motivation for it because 5 years of training, naturally, there's nothing much else you can do,
Yeah.
and it's getting a bit boring. And I actually noticed I started to have a really uncomfortable sort of um, relation to my body. In terms of I would like be obsessed even more with making sure my calories were spot on and checking my physique a lot more. And I think once you get used to having a certain physique, you kind of forget how good it is as well. Once you're used to seeing it in the mirror, you start to pick out more and more holes. Anyway, I got into running at the start of this year pretty much. And then I'll do three weight sessions, two running sessions, a sort of high rock style session.
Yeah,
People don't really know it's kind of just like circuit sort of training, like high intensity. And I now play five-side football. I literally now, like, still think about my calories a little bit, but I kind of naturally eat the same amount every day. I never really think about my body composition whatsoever, but it is actually the best it's ever been. But I do
yeah,
not think about it, and I think it's just because you're doing more cardio and that sort of thing, and it's more performance based. You're naturally worrying less about what you're putting in because you're just fueling your performance and fueling your enjoyment. That's you kind of see the food as not so much a means to keep a certain look for your body. It's more, well, I'm getting this food in because it's fueling what I love. So you have more of a love with the food you're eating. Like
yeah,
I now eat a bit more food the day before I do a big run, and I don't. Before I'd be kicking myself, thinking, "Why am I eating this much? Like I shouldn't be." It's now like, no, this is fueling what I love. This great run, and I'm going to achieve like a nice time tomorrow. On the back of that, what particular performance sports do you do yourself, or have you done a range over the years? What do you enjoy doing?
yeah. So I've done a range. I played competitive football, not at a high level, when I was obviously a kid. I did that all the way through to my teenage years, and then I just completely fell out of love with it and went into more boxing, more contact sports, so Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, mixed martial arts, and I absolutely love them. I got to meet the best people. I got made some of my best friends through it. Ironic that they're punching and kicking you in the face, but there is absolutely no ego in the sport. Really good gyms are very welcoming, and I think they give such a good principle as to, understanding what it means to be physically capable, but not be an absolute idiot. Whereby people used to associate like boxers and contact athletes as people that just go out looking for fights in the street. My friends have never once done that when I've been out on nights with them. I've had the best nights out when they are just. It brings like a real sense of community and like brotherhood to people, and I needed that because I grew up quite fragile, obviously, with my own body dysmorphia. And when I realised that I got punched in the face and I wasn't made of glass, that was like liberating. It genuinely, it was. I can't explain it to people. It was a real gift to experience it and go, I'm so happy that I have turned up here and I've got chance to experience what this means to me. And then from there, I've just recently, last year, just got into gymnastics because I've always had a love for it. I've always thought I'd love to go and give that a go. And I would just turn up to one class after years of going, just do it. And I kept putting it off, saying, "No, it's too late. It's never too late." Got into it, and then I'm like going 2, 3 times a week now, and I love it. I think it's great. Fell on my head a number of times, but I'm having fun trying to learn a new skill. And this is the whole point of me saying set a goal, because it really motivates you. Do something, dare yourself, push your boundary of your potential to try something new, and I think you will get the absolute best from it, without a shadow of a doubt. And it gives you like so much more fun and stimulation, and what you get back from it as well.
So what's interesting what you're saying there, particularly about the combat sports, is that I think it really does help with insecurity in a way. Like
Yeah,
you said, when you got punched in the face, it kind of helped that you were quite fragile about the way you looked, maybe in a sort of weak sense. I'm not sure the way you're interpreting it, implying it. And I think, yeah, when you realise you do something like that, it's not only daunting physically that you can take a punch, but emotionally, it's quite an
yeah,
emotional thing. Like getting into that much of a combative sort of like state with someone. It's a proper sort of head to head thing with someone. I can't think of the word I'm looking for here, but it's quite an emotional thing. So to be able to take a punch to the face emotionally as well as physically, I think it does a lot for you. your security. And I think that's also why you mentioned, and it's so true, a lot of people in combat sports actually get into less fights and start less fights.
Way less.
And I
Yeah,
think it is mainly because of that. A lot of lads I notice on nights out, the ones that normally start the fights, they're looking to sort of prove something to themselves and prove something to the people around them,
yeah,
because they don't know whether they can fight. They don't know whether they're a tough person. They're trying to prove something. Um, I myself, I did boxing for 2 years. When I finished football, actually, I was 16 to 18. I did boxing. It was only training. I did sparring, but I never properly fought because I was doing
yeah,
it off and on sort of thing. And once I knew I could fight better than the average person, for example, because it does make a hell of a difference to know how to fight and move. It's
yeah,
crazy the difference. It is when you realize that, it kind of, from then on, like, whenever there has been confrontation with people on a night out, which I haven't instigated, I'm so chilled out about it. It's just
yeah,
like you don't want it to happen because you're just like, I can't be bothered for it. Whereas the other person, it's like, no, I need this. I need to like prove something. You always stand your ground. I think that's what it helps you do. It helps you stand your ground verbally in terms of
yeah,
have your boundaries, set your boundaries with people in a hostile environment because you know you can back yourself, and it just allows you to, I suppose, not allow emotion to get into it. There's no emotion in it. It's you've done something wrong. Stop now. There's your boundary.
yes,
Whereas I think other people, it's like when they've been wronged by someone on a night out, it's like, oh, shall I do something about this to prove that I should do something,
yeah.
that I have the sort of the bollocks to do something. So yeah, that's definitely, I think, a benefit of combat sports. In terms of like fitness and self, I know we've talked about, like, you kind of hint at mental and physical benefits of fitness. Like, just what general benefits have you found fitness has made to your life? And I know it's quite like a generic, broad question. Um,
Yeah, so before obviously I was a health coach, I was a tradesman, I was an electrician,
mhm,
and quite manual labour, not electrician as a role, but when I was renovating, say, my house, when my brother, he's a tradesman, he's got his own company, and we renovated other houses together. Just being physically capable was a big part of everyday life,
mhm,
and understanding that how I've found now that the more I've trained and experience I've got, it's actually protected me more from getting injured in everyday life, which has been fantastic. I wake up with more energy. When I've trained, I get a real laser sharp focus to my day because I train early in the morning when I first wake up. It's sort of like a non-negotiable for me, whereby I'll do some form of hard training in the morning, and then that sets the tone for my day. So it puts me in a positive mental state because I've done something already that's contributed to my own growth and my own well-being. So I also use it as like a mental exercise. And when I've seen my own journey looking back, because I'll tend to like film some more footage, whether it's for content, whether it's for me reviewing and watching back. And you can go back to old videos and watch how, like, what weight I moved, how I moved it compared to now. And I'm like, there's such a journey there that I am unconsciously, I've not paid any attention to. But I only notice it when I look back and I go, bloody hell, that used to be really difficult for me, and now it's not. I think it's such a powerful tool for proving to people, you are capable of something if you just give a bit of time to it and a bit of belief. And it is the most underprescribed drug in the planet because you can't bottle movement, you can't bottle strength training and put it in a pill and give it to people. You have to actually go out and do the damn hard work. And I think that's amazing because I've got respect for any person that walks in the gym, irrespective of what you look like, whether you are already muscular or skinny, or even in the opposite end of the scale, someone who's overweight, right? I would never take the piss out of anyone turning up to a gym because it's like a universal language we're all talking of. Like, we're all here just to better ourselves at the end of the day. And that's why I hate when I see, people taking the mick on like social media and they'll secretly film somebody and then they'll post it for like laughs. And it's like, something, no wonder people don't want to pursue health and well-being because they are so scared of what other people are going to do and think about them. that to some people it would completely put them off even trying, you know, because not everyone's as thick-skinned as everybody else. And yeah, like just for my own personal, if I didn't have this, if I couldn't train, if I didn't have that vice, I don't even think I'd really want to be on this planet. Like I'd be another one of the men that unfortunately probably felt like he didn't know what to do, and the only way out to find some sort of escapism was to take his own life, and that's another topic in its own right, and it's awful. You know, it's a real crying shame. There's so many young men that are just feeling like they can't find a way in life to, or find the right person or the right network to support them, and they just, because as men, you know as well as I do, we're crap at talking about our feelings and emotions. We're shocking at it, and that's why I'm hoping that the more people listen to, like myself having body dysmorphia, and like it was miserable, but there's resolution to it. If like, you know, you really want to find those things in life that bring you joy and happiness, and you've got to pursue them. You've got to really set your stall out and go, there's only one person that can help me change my current position, and that's me. And then you can utilize the help of other people and groups or your friends, you know, but talk and have the willingness to share, because even though it can be quite embarrassing for me to speak about it, I understand that my own example could be just what somebody else needs to hear. And that's what matters more to me. If I can just take one person and give them the courage to not do something so rash in the heat of the moment and end their time, very precious time on the planet, then I've done my job. You know, I've done my job as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's a really important thing for me. Health will always be part of everything I do until the day I'm in the ground and I can no longer move. It's a way to put it.
Yeah, it's been a huge thing for me, for my mental health as well. I think it's just it's just a foundation in your day, really. It really is. It's like it just helps you clear your mind. It just makes you feel better about yourself. And I think the main thing you said there, which stood out to me, well, two things actually. I think first of all, you sharing your example of you going through body dysmorphia and coming through the other end, and not feeling great about yourself and coming through the other end. And this is the type of thing I agree with. I think needs to be out there more.
Yeah,
I think people that are currently going through that, if they are watching this, to know there's light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah,
That's the most important thing. Whatever they're suffering with, and that's why I think a lot of people, and I do see it happening a bit more, which is good, but I do think there needs to be a lot more content of people being authentic and sharing like that it
yeah,
really was difficult at the start, and it's normal to have a difficult patch, but if you keep working at it, you know, it will come through. And I think that's the thing with the gym as well. For most people, is like you said, it's the first real example of something where it takes time, but if you put in that time and discipline, you can
yeah,
really improve yourself. And I think
yeah,
that's just what's so powerful about it. Like the gym was the first thing for me that I kind of stuck at, even though it took ages. And I
yeah,
apply that to everything. Like I'm applying it to this podcast. Like
yeah,
although I haven't actually got attachment to how big it gets. I actually am just enjoying these conversations. If there is ever doubts about, am I good at this? Like, there's people that are, you know, awesome, got huge platforms. I'm like, but I started somewhere in the gym, and I've ended up somewhere with a much better body composition, much better fitness, much better performance. It's the same again. I right now I'm at the worst I'll ever be. You know, I'm only going to get better, sort of thing.
yeah.
Speaking about your coaching, um, I know you've mentioned this a little bit, but um, in sort of fragments. But how would you describe a holistic health coach? Because I think it's slightly, but it is different to your usual fitness influencer type coach that we see a lot of nowadays.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone to think I'm talking bad about anyone that maybe in the personal training space,
Yeah,
or
totally.
but it's health on the deeper level, and everything that's based on like an exercise program and a nutrition program, which is like cookie cutter what probably a lot of trainers are utilizing with clients, and they're not being open and honest, but it'd be like a copy and paste thing. Or real big example is when you find the massive companies. I won't name any of them, but they get a lot of attention with their ad spend, and a lot of people sign up. And again, you'll just be given a cookie cutter program. And let's say we take 100 people, 10 could get exceptional results, 20 could get good results, and 70 could get nothing. But they'll only focus on the 20 and the 10 that got something, and they'll be the ones they use for the social proof. But for me, I'm very tuned into wanting to, like, what is your health status? Like, and that's what a lot of people, this is the best, like, I'm so happy you asked that question, because I say this often to everybody. So, right, everyone's got car insurance for their car typically, right? Everyone will go and have it MOT'd every year. People have their boiler in the house serviced every year. Why? To make sure it's safe and it's like road compliant. So why aren't people having bloods done every year or every 6 months? Because your blood is like an inside gateway as to how the body's operating, and that's what I like to use with clients. I like to use lab results. I like to use like a functional health consultation, which is like an in-depth health survey. So it'll cover everything like kidney health, liver health, and it'll just ask you questions. Are you experiencing, dry skin, eczema, psoriasis? When you go into the toilet, what are your stools like? And everyone may think that's a bit intense, but it's a true reflection of health status, because I think when you feel good, you perform at your best, and feeling good is coming from within. So as a holistic health coach, it's my responsibility to see your current health status where it is, see where the goal is, where we want to get to, and there's a tailored plan from A to B, to C to D, all the way to Z. And that's the whole purpose of nothing that I do is copy and pasted to another person. That's irresponsible in my personal opinion. And, if you want to get people results, every person is different on what they need, the food that they can and can't eat, the way they like to train, their lifestyle, how they manage stress. There's all these little levers that we need to influence and just help people basically understand how they can optimize their own health and well-being, and not just follow what everyone else is doing and hoping that they'll get a result. Because I know so many people that for every 10 that have like found success, there are hundreds that didn't, and they will say when I meet them, I've tried every diet on the planet, I've tried every workout on the planet, none of them have worked for me. And it's because you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. So that's why tailoring, like as a holistic health coach, and understanding more of the functional medicine side, that is coming a lot more to light, and people are starting to like raise more awareness through social media with it. That to get like the best results are results that are tailored to your goals, and then building a plan from that. So that's my responsibility to like really be conscious and give someone so much attention in detail to what they're doing, to give them the absolute best chance of the desired outcome and goal.
Yeah, that is at such a deeper level, like literally analysing, their blood work to the degree, to figure out exactly what's best for them. I'm trying to paint a picture in terms of blood work, because this is something that I think is slowly starting to become more mainstream, but really isn't yet.
Yeah, yeah,
It's something I don't have a clue about myself. Um, from the off, when you're describing it, it does make so much more sense in terms of why aren't people even looking at this? Because it literally is analysing the most important parts of your body, your organs, your kidneys, your liver,
yeah,
how they're functioning from your blood work. Whereas I think the deep is the perfect word as well, because what we kind of have mainstream wise as an overview of our health is, I think a good few years ago, it was literally, what do I look like? That was literally
yeah,
the only sort of criteria for whether you're healthy or not even looking underneath,
yeah,
which is just crazy. I think now we're starting to get a little bit of more towards, can I do a bit of cardio? Can I run a bit as well? I've started to see that creep in, which is an improvement. But we're not even looking at, most people, I'd hazard a guess at 99% of people aren't even looking at what's even underneath that.
yeah.
in terms of are my organs performing that well. I think the main thing where maybe people like me haven't gone to that much of a deeper sort of um, how'd you put haven't tried to analyze it at that deeper level yet is maybe I think that's enough in terms of I'm 24 myself. Maybe I think I'm 24. I look all right. I can perform all right. That's enough. Surely my organs are fine. For someone like me, if I was to do blood work, would you say the thing that pops into my head, and I'll ask you the question fully, is that maybe the benefits of me doing that is to see if there is, first of all, any underlying things
Yeah,
that could that are happening in my body that I don't know about,
yeah,
and maybe they could get a lot worse within 5 to 10 years. So is it for someone my age? Would you say it's more of a preventative sort of strategy to prevent any long term health issues? Because at the
yeah.
moment, I'm not sure if you've had this with people my age. It'd probably be very rare for someone my age to have current problems with their organs, extreme ones that need to be solved right now with blood work, but maybe preventative works
So
enough.
there's a couple of instances whereby you people wouldn't know,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're in the like training space than I am. Younger people are taking more steroids and performance enhancing drugs nowadays.
Mm.
They have massive implications on heart, liver, and kidney health. I know a lot of people that don't run labs when they do that, and it's crazy. And again, this is based on an aesthetic desire. Guys are living to social media standards of, they need that quicker result. They need to look better. So they're doing things that have an influence on all the cascade systems of the body. And you can take something, yes, you may get benefit from it, but what is the damage? What is the trade off? And playing ignorance to it is really unwise because the one piece of real estate you have to call home is your body, and it's not replaceable. You can't go to the shop and buy another one. You have to look after like this. There is no plan B. Yeah, anyway, in our current time, who knows in 120 years, there might be. There might be the ability to do that, but there isn't now. So, and again, as you mentioned, to get prevention is better than the cure. So if we can then notice, okay, we've got raised liver markers here. Why have we got raised liver markers? And for example, like let's say someone that's living in a house that's got mold. Mold toxicity can cause havoc on the health. It can throw a lot of liver markers high. It can throw inflammation markers high. Cause severe brain fog. It can cause unknown illnesses like neurodegenerative diseases. It can affect the way your mental capacity operates. A lot of brain fog, a lot of fatigue, and yet you could be putting it down to, I'm just under the weather, without even realizing that you're cross correlating. Yeah, I've got mold in my house, but what's it doing to my health? Because thinking it's going to disappear while the mold's there is very unlikely. And it's about just giving people the education to, understand it. As much as it may seem complex, it's worth the investment because, like, as I mentioned, you get one roll of these dice. And and I know when you feel and perform at your best, isn't life great?
Mm.
We take it for granted every day, just health. Everyone takes health for granted until the day that they have lost it or they feel really ill. And then they're like, holy hell, I would give anything to go back to feeling how I was last week. And it's literally that simple. And even though you may have to, like, you can get bloods done at doctors. On a separate tangent here, doctors seem sometimes not wanting to share the results because they'll get the results, they'll look and they go, everything's fine. What does fine mean? Right? Because I know that when I've had bloods done, like this is an example, my bloods came back, and in the institute we use functional ranges, whereas all the blood tests that I've ever had and clients use conventional ranges. And conventional is, let's say it's this wide, so this is green, and then on the outside of that it's red. Functional is, here's green, here's orange, like warning, here's red, we've got an issue, and then here's like the end of the conventional range, like you are in shit. We really need to do something about this. And I had 10 markers in conventional that were out. I put my functional ranges in. I had 23 markers out. And then that was cross correlating like all these little symptoms I had. I was like, holy hell, like, yeah, that's an example of like that marker's low and that's why I've been feeling this way. And to get that insight, and I know some people may want to play ignorant, so if I've got a problem, I don't want to know about it. And I think that's ridiculous. I just want to say it to him once. I said, that's crazy. I don't know why you'd think like that. But if you can take action, like let's say you say you're healthy, right? And let's say you're like you feel good and you're only operating at 80%. What about that 20%? What's that 20% uplift going to bring to you? It could literally change your life. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people nowadays feel like crap and they accept it as normal. They think that's normal. So they wake up feeling like crap day in, day out, and that's how they feel. So they're not living life to their absolute potential because they are just operating at what 40, 50%, and unaware that there's 50% that they can actually squeeze out of this lemon, get more juice out of it if they just check the labs and see, okay, this is going to cross correlate with some of the feelings and emotions I'm having, and then being able to optimize them.
You've almost sold me here into looking at it a lot more.
Yeah,
Um, what I find quite interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, um, it seems to me as well, a lot of the underlying sort of subpar, maybe physical things we feel, like a slight bit of bad health, not feeling like 100%, um, can also affect our mental health as well. So I feel
yeah,
like this does definitely have a knock-on effect. Maybe there's some days where you just don't feel great and you can't explain it mentally, and maybe like there's something that's not deeper, in your body that's contributing to that. Um, Something I want to go into a bit more in terms of the blood work stuff is how people can start to maybe improve it diet wise. I know the whole point of your coaching, which is brilliant and it makes a lot of sense, is there's not a one
yeah,
size fits all approach, and that's totally right. People have different blood levels, different things they need to improve. Um, but I myself, so I'm going to take it in my position, and I didn't think I'd go into this much route, but this is something I'm just like very very interested in right now,
yeah,
just from this conversation, and trying to figure out how I could, and maybe people at home in a similar position can apply a plan to improve their overall holistic health.
yeah,
Um, I'm not sure how much it costs to get bloods done or to, invest into a coach like yourself. And I think some people might share the same thing as me, still behind that notion just right now where I'm young, I'm performing well, I look good. I'm not getting ill that often. Everything still seems all right where I don't invest money into it. I've got other priorities for my money. And that's
yeah,
kind of where my mindset's currently at. But just from this conversation and the way I eat, so this is a massive sort of tangent of just bringing us all together. Um, but the way I eat still is kind of uh, mainly for body composition.
yeah,
Macros. That's the deepest level I'll go. Macros, and then I just don't calorie count as extently as I used to because I don't have as bad body dysmorphia, and not that I ever had it bad, but I'm more about performance. I think I don't eat at all for my actual overall body health in terms of like um, preventing illness, making sure all my hormones are right, balanced, and making sure my bloods are balanced,
yeah.
sort of thing. Is there any sort of generic sort of or non-negotiable foods you'd recommend someone integrates into the diet to go beyond that sort of body composition, that macro sort of foods?
Yeah, protein's essential.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell everybody protein is the non-negotiable on your plate because it is the one macronutrient that helps us to protect and preserve and build, regenerate new muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is the tissue of youth and longevity. It is so important that there are now more and more people coming out talking about the importance of having muscle, especially as we age, because we naturally Hormones start to decline in men, especially testosterone. We go through sarcopenia if we are untrained, or if we stay untrained and we get a more sedentary lifestyle. So protein for me is the absolute like king macro that I would put there for just Gen Pop, for people to make sure that they're getting it in every meal and making sure that it's from a good quality source. And again, it can be more difficult for people if they are vegan or vegetarian, but they just have to eat a more diverse approach of proteins to get the amino acid profile, whereas meat and organ meat tend to have the complete amino acid profile, so it's easier for us if we eat meat. And then coming to carbohydrates and fats, and I'm glad you asked it, because there is more people now slating carbohydrates on social media, left, right, and centre. They are not gonna bloody kill you, without swearing, because
You can swear, by the way.
yeah,
Kids won't be watching this.
yeah, I try not to, just
No,
in
fine.
case. And there's like, people now that walk into a supermarket and they start demonizing food. They walk in like, I wake up one day, I'm just going to go to Tesco's and start slagging off all this food. You know, it's getting like everyone's trying to come out with a new message that this food is good and this food is bad. Now, granted, ultra processed food, I try to stay away from it. The likes of like your crisps, your chocolate, your cakes. And again, if you eat them, it's all in moderation. The dose makes the poison, and that's what I want to drive home to everybody. It isn't about killing yourself or worrying that you've eaten a cookie because it's a carb and you've heard that carbs are going to raise your insulin and insulin is going to make you fat and it's going to kill you very soon. That's the problem we've got. How active you are and what your goals are will determine how much fat and carbohydrates you want to play about within your diet. It's just about balancing the ratio. And as you mentioned it's not, some people find calorie counting very hard. Like someone with an eating disorder, it's the worst thing to do, tell them to count calories, because they've already got a warped relationship with food. Then you want to add in another like constraint and make it even worse. So with people like that, you can't just say everyone needs to count calories, and because it doesn't work for some people, it's like one of the worst things you can do. So the one thing that I'll come back to is protein is essential on your plate. Make that the first thing. And I'm not meaning it's your whole plate. I'm just saying it's like the part of the meal that you put in first. Get it there and establish it. And then how you orientate your carbohydrate and fat source depends on, again, how active you are. Was it a training day for you? Do you perform better on carbs? Have you noticed like some people say, oh yeah, well, I'm going to lose more weight if I go ketogenic and eat more fats. Some people can't perform on a ketogenic diet. So again, it's one thing that the message to everybody is: don't listen to what one influencer said on social media. Be willing to go, test out, speak to people, try methods, because you are your own best science project. I know myself, I eat plenty of carbs, but they're not sausage rolls. It's not really cookies and crisps. It's more fruits. It's potatoes. A lot of vegetables in my diet. That's how I thrive, and I feel at my best. So the one thing that I'd say everyone should always have on their plate is protein. And then the carbs and fats you accompany with it, you can balance and determine the ratios on what your goal is and what you're aiming to achieve. And then if you really want to get specific with it, work with someone that's going to, if you're interested in optimizing your health, run through it with a coach. That's the best way. It just is, If you want, you can get there quicker with the right help. That's how I always say to people. There's things that I wish that I'd jumped on 10, 15 years ago with people I know now. That's hindsight.
Definitely.
But just being able to tell people it's not about worrying. Don't worry too much about, oh, someone said this food's bad and this food's good. Them labels are really just warping and giving people more food anxiety than is necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that stands out to me there, what you were just saying, was the misinformation, that sort of thing. I think what's interesting is that, and why you probably do need a coach for this. When it comes to like building body composition now, I feel like it's such a mainstream thing. I feel like you can get the answers online for that pretty easily, and you can. But I think the biggest thing about hiring a coach is that it can sift through the misinformation and get to the correct information.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you can do that yourself. I think with body composition stuff quite well after a while because it's not that complex, but it's not of a deeper level. But the thing that stands out to me here is with if you want to really improve your holistic health, it's a really complex thing, and I think getting a coach probably would really get you from like A to Z, like one end of the spectrum to the other,
Yeah.
really quickly. Um, and it does seem like there is a lot of misinformation out there. Um, with with the rise of misinformation itself, would there be any sort of other tips rather than getting a coach that you could say other people can possibly do to sift through it themselves? I mean, it seems like it is quite a hard thing to really determine what's.
Yeah, so a good thing you can rely on sometimes is scientific studies, like but from good sources like PubMed. If you're into reading like meta-analysis that cover around like, and for example, as we spoke, the ketogenic approach versus a like higher carbohydrate, lower fat approach for fat loss. When you read the studies, there was literally no difference in terms of both groups losing weight. One was not more beneficial than the other. And in fact, I think the higher carb group, lost slightly more. So it goes against the narrative that is pushed on social media. But follow good people as well. So if I could name drop a few people in the space that I think are really reputable, that deliver good information on social media, is Lane Norton, or he goes by Bio Lane on Instagram. You know, he takes apart all the studies and calls out all the people that are then picking a study, and they will cite a certain piece of information and just misinterpret it against the rest of the whole of the study. And he helps to clarify with that. And then you get Ben Carpenter. He's another fantastic person that does it. There's a number of good people out there that you can find on social media. So as much as social media is bad, there are really good examples of people as well. And I don't want to name drop myself. I try my hardest to be that neutral person, to not demonize things and like tell you, oh, it's worked for me, so it's going to work for you. Or Karen from Slimming Club has said this is the next best thing that you need to go and do, so go and do it right now. It's just about, you can find, we're in an age now where we've got information at our fingertips, and you can find really good people as much as you can find bad people. But I think in the general terms, the bad misinformation gets more clicks, because it's the shock factor. So there's more of it. Controversy sells at the end of the day. So that's why you'll find a lot more of the like cherry picked information that wants to get shared, that will support someone's narrative, than people that are just genuinely trying to help you.
Yeah. Two things really stand out to me there. The first one is the bit you were kind of ending on. It is so true, and it's just such a shame with quite a lot of media. Really, it always is the extreme things that get pointed out because the boring stuff that works of just gradually improving your health and
Yeah,
doing the difficult stuff, um, it's just boring to people. Don't grab headlines, but the quick, easy fixes that this new superfood or things like that,
yeah,
people want that.
yeah,
They want. Um, so that's probably one thing that you kind of said there. I think that people can take away from this. Try and steer away from people that post all these like quick fix sort of
yeah,
narratives. Um, it's fine talking about it, I think, but like people that like are all biased towards that one way and go, this will definitely solve all your problems. Try and avoid that. And I think the other thing is the scientific papers behind it. Either do your own research yourself or just follow people like you pointed out that use science-backed research. One
yeah,
of the main things that actually made me land on your content and made me want to speak to you and learn from you was literally I noticed nearly all your posts had like sources linked to them or like scientific, content. So I know this guy isn't just grabbing this information out of thin air. He's using science-backed studies, which is like
yeah,
one of the most reliant things, like pieces of information. That is like, very reliable. So yeah, I'd give that advice to other people. Like if you're looking for information off people, especially when it comes to holistic, deeper health,
yeah,
um, go for people that are scientifically based, like backed, for sure. Definitely. Last bit of thing of misinformation, um, is there anything that sticks out to you in terms of like any topics or like anything that, yeah, that sticks out about maybe like any mainstream information that gets passed on about improving your health? Is there anything that sticks out that kind of you feel like needs to be eliminated from the space? Like anything, or is it like,
Yeah,
yeah,
tons. I,
I know there's a lot, but is there any that stand out maybe for people that need to watch out for?
yeah, like apple cider vinegar gummies is a big one,
Mm.
especially with women and like fat loss and anything that comes to weight loss and fat loss. There is more and more crap coming to the market in terms of, I lost this much in a week. If any, the minute anything starts with that, you just go, fuck's sake, here we go. It's just like the roller coaster of nonsense just starts climbing. Every man, nan, and his dog is also now selling Shilajit on TikTok. Like you'll just get a random guy in his house saying, buy this Shilajit supplement. Oh, and he's conveniently got a link to an affiliate link to buy it. And people still buy it, and it's like you sit there and you go, "Oh, please, just understand why this person is trying to sell this supplement to you, because they're making damn money off it." People that he's proclaiming all these health benefits, and yeah, it's about being drawn in by shiny object syndrome. Anything that is like, when it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck, right? And people still, we live in an age of like the dopamine fix of social media. Keep coming back to it and wanting the quick fix solution. When it comes to health, you can't rush the process. You just can't. The best approach is the slow, steady, and controlled approach. So when you listen to like extravagant reviews of supplements, when you listen to extravagant reviews of a new diet, when you listen to this workout's going to burn your belly fat, which is physically impossible, no exercise, no anything in particular is ever going to burn your belly fat on its own, stay the hell away from it. Just stay away. Even though it's tempting, even though you think this could change my life, I'm telling you now, it's not going to change your life. Because a great example is, I'll go back to the Shilajit example.
I was going to ask about
Shilajit's a
that, to be fair.
phenomenal
Yeah.
supplement. Phenomenal, right? But you've got someone who's got a really terrible lifestyle. They drink regularly, they go out all the time, they go to bed late, they don't eat the best food, yet they've seen Shilajit will make their life better. So they take Shilajit instead of thinking, I need to sort out the foundations of my own house here, the things that actually matter, and instead they'll buy a supplement, it'll be a placebo, it'll not do them any benefit, and they'll think it's crap. That's because Shilajit is there to be used when you're already in a very good position. And it'll help get you that extra 5 to 10% at best. It's not going to sort the 90% of destruction that you're ignoring, thinking that it's going to restore that. And that is my biggest bugbear with people. We can't rush it. We can't just take shortcuts.
What exactly
So
is Shilajit, by the way? Because I actually don't know
it's
what it is myself.
yeah. So Shilajit it's like a resin compound,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rich in I think like 60 minerals or a good. But you can get it as like a resin, so in a paste. You can get it in capsules, and then you can get it in the uncut block version. But it's basically got a number, a high concentration of trace minerals, and a lot of people are deficient typically in trace minerals because of the food we eat, the lifestyles we lead. Food quality isn't what it used to be. So it has its place. Don't get me wrong, it can be very useful. But again, if it's made cheaply, if it's made poorly, if it's got binders and fillers in it, the quality is what matters. And typically, if you want to buy a quality supplement, TikTok shop probably isn't going to be the place you're going to find it because it's going to be mass produced cheap crap. Just as a stab in the dark. Typically, like, I've never seen any of the brands that are on TikTok shop that are based in like really well backed. Like Amrit is a really good supplement website I use with clients, and you can use portals with it. Really well studied supplements that have got the third party regulated, and they've been tested and proven for that what they're claiming they have in it is actually backed up, and not just what someone on TikTok is saying. yeah, it's great, take it. That's my point, I think. Because people like myself who try very hard to help people get shunned to the crowd by someone who all of a sudden is selling this magic pill that can change your life, supposedly.
No, that explains it perfectly for me. Um, yeah, that's really good. A lot there to look out for people, and it's helped me as well figure out in terms of what information I should look at or not. I wanted to talk a little bit about gut health,
Yeah,
because this is something that I actually kind of think myself I might not have great gut health, but I'm not going to go into myself
yeah,
completely. I think it's something that, yeah, similar to blood work. I'm not sure how linked it is, if they're two sides of the same coin or one affects the other massively. But I think, yeah, again, people just look at, do I look all right? Can I run all right? Pretty much that's it.
yeah.
Um, how important is it to look after your gut health? Yeah,
Yeah, do you know something? It's where the outside world meets the inside world. And if you've got even just the most everyday examples, excessive gas when eating, bloating, if you've got pain or discomfort, if you have like the excessive bloating is a huge one. If you're eating a food and all of a sudden you need to rush to the toilet, these are all little signs. Gut health is a huge, huge topic. But again, so many like pathologies and illnesses that we see and people with discomfort can come from gut health alone, such as leaky gut, such as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. These are all instances whereby, and it's not a case of good or bad bacteria that you hear pronounced, it's just a case of a strain of bacteria that's become a bit, well, prolific, and they've just become opportunistic, and they've been given the environment in order to do so. Because, and when they're in a certain high number or quantity, that's when we can start to get issues. And then like for example, gluten's a really big additive into like breads and pastries and based food. I know that when I had gluten years ago in my teenage years, it put me in hospital thinking I had appendicitis. It caused me to have really bad irritable bowel syndrome. And the protein that's in bread, gluten can help to, well, doesn't help, it can break down tight junctions in the gut, which is like these tight cells on the bends and the jointing capacity of the intestines, and it can break them down and it can lead to leaky gut. So then we get endotoxemia of undigested food and metabolites bypassing the gut barrier to go into the systemic in circulation and then cause inflammation around the body. So gut health is a deep topic, and it's certainly getting more attention nowadays with more people talking about it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people that have probably got issues are a bit shy. Like they're really not. They know they've got issues, but it's quite confronting because they don't want to tell someone, look, like, yeah, I've got really bad constipation or I've got really bad diarrhea. It's like a big taboo subject. But for me, in the position I'm in, I just say to people like, nothing's off the table. There's no need to be embarrassed. I've struggled with all these things previously. You know, I'm only human like you. I'm not perfect. And it's just about making it an acceptable topic to talk about, because the more people know and the more people are willing to, go to the like go and see a health coach, and it's not about me saying never go to your doctor, but I want to see myself as that line of defense that can help to stop you needing to go to the doctor and let only really serious cases be seen by doctors that really need that deeper level of help, because the NHS is overwhelmed. So for me, I don't want people to just see their doctor as their first line of defense. You yourself are your first line, and then you can leverage these other people that have got awareness in all these other factors of health that can help to prevent you from needing to go into the doctor's office and away from medications, hopefully. Do it holistically with like supplements, with herbs, spices, with the foods we eat, our lifestyle. These are all massive levers of health that we can pull without just relying on like a pharmacological approach to it.
yeah. There's just so much there, and it's just it's yet again, it's just great to hear you open up about the fact that you've had gut problems in the past, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about,
Yeah,
and that'll
yeah,
help people, get help themselves. Because I think that is, it's because it does involve your bowels. It is, to most people, seems quite an embarrassing thing to work on, let alone
yeah.
speak about. We kind of just trying to ignore the fact that we have a problem. But I think understanding that a lot of people probably do have a slight problem with their gut health with the foods we eat, and that it's not on. It doesn't make you bad as a person, or
No,
to have these sort of problems, and that. But at the same time, it is important. You do need to get it fixed. Um, in terms of gut health, you kind of mentioned a few things like irritable bowels, constipation, diarrhea, and certain foods that might cause you to have, this sort of reaction. Is there any sort of telltale signs of poor gut health? And how would someone identify that they have maybe poor gut health? To then the diagnosis part before getting on to.
it's it's about just paying attention to the symptoms. So if
Mhm.
you get like excessive gas and bloating after you've eaten certain types of foods, straight away there's a response there that you need to like. It's the warning sign to
Mhm.
say your gut's basically saying, "I'm not happy with this scenario, and this is causing such symptoms." For example, if you are getting, you can try certain things yourself. So when like I'll work with clients, there's two simple tests that people can try just off the bat. So stomach acid function is a really, really important thing for overall digestive health and well-being. And most people, when they get heartburn, will turn to antacids. They can get them over the counter like proton pump inhibitors. And most people probably don't realise that a cause of heartburn is nothing to do with excess stomach acid. It's actually to do with not having enough. And the esophageal sphincter in the bottom of the esophagus regulates opening and closing depending on the amount of stomach acid we have. Now, if you eat food and there isn't sufficient stomach acid, that sphincter won't close. So when the stomach's chiming and it's turning the food around, you will get slight acid reflux. But that's because you've got insufficient stomach acid. So then when you give an antacid to somebody, sure, they're not going to get heartburn, but you've literally just taken their ability to digest food properly and just tanked it so much worse. So a thing that people can try just to test their general stomach acid function is before you've eaten any food, first thing, take like a teaspoon of bicarb soda in 250 milliliters of water, drink it, and time yourself until you burp. So relatively good strong function can be 3 minutes and under. If you're over 3 minutes, it's a good indicator that there might be some challenges there. And I've heard instances of people never burping. So then you know there's a real issue. So again, digestion starts from this top-down approach of basically, are we eating in a calm setting? Do I chew my food sufficiently? You know, do I have optimal salivary production in the mouth to combine my food with saliva to when I ingest it, so my body doesn't recognize it as a foreign pathogen? Because amylase in the saliva is very important to bind to the food we eat, so that your body doesn't recognize it as a foreign pathogen and want to release an immunological response against it. So there's so many things that we could talk about with gut health, but it's just realizing that anything that's out of the norm. So if you're feeling the excess gas, the bloating, the pain, the discomfort, that's your sign to say there's something not quite right here. And it's just about thinking maybe instead of going to the pharmacy and getting a tablet to remove the bloating, to remove the constipation, because what's the point in trying to put a plaster on a bleeding artery? It's pointless. You'll mask it temporarily, but at some point, it's either going to get worse where you can't avoid it. So it's about just thinking, if I want to get back to feeling like my best self and getting rid of these symptoms and being able to like not have to avoid certain foods that may cause you to have certain bowel urges to run to the toilet, so it puts you out going out for meals with your friends, or it puts you in a real state of anxiety when you have to eat certain foods at a party or a buffet that you can't avoid. It can make life really miserable. So it's just about thinking, what if I took a chance and tried to actually sort out what this means? Because good gut health is really overlooked.
Um,
Really overlooked.
yeah, I mean, this is the thing as well. This is just another topic that I almost don't want to turn this into a whole podcast about gut health. I feel like this is something I could talk to you about, possibly in another episode down the line, if it comes to that. Um, but it's so interesting, and you've got so much to share about it. You're kind of mentioning there about you don't get to the point where you go to a restaurant with friends and you got anxiety about what you can and can't eat.
Yeah.
To help me understand, in terms of improving your gut health, um, is it? I was originally thinking, is it the case of you should avoid certain foods and eat certain foods? I know everyone's different, like we said, people have different foods that they'll react with. But I was thinking, is there sort of a generic sort of diet that you should avoid and a generic diet you should go for? Um, and if not, what can you do to improve your gut health?
So big thing, like another problem that you'll see on social media is people are told to have more probiotics and prebiotics,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pointless putting fuel on a fire, because if you have them when you've got poor gut health to start with, you're just fueling, more dysbiosis, more issues. So this isn't saying probiotics and prebiotics are bad. It's about when to use them. They are not the answer to everything, like you will hear from certain people that say it. So most people, if they've got severe gut health challenges, they could follow what's called like an elimination diet or an autoimmune protocol, and it's intense. It removes a lot of foods out of the diet, but the whole reason being that it's trying to reduce overall gastric load, only supply it with what it can easily break down and digest in order to help restore the gut lining. Like, for example, if you've got either paracellular or transcellular leaky gut, in order to just give it the building blocks to heal, like reducing gastric load is a big part of it. And then when it's in a state of being like in the institute, we're shown like a three-phase protocol, and this isn't like a framework. It's basically a suggestion that you follow with it. So you would go through a restoration phase with somebody, so to improve their gut health, just in general, reducing load, possibly following like a FODMAP or elimination diet. Then you would go into a kill off phase, which will try to eliminate any basically opportunistic bacteria that are in a prolific state, or if you've got like Helicobacter pylori, which is a opportunistic bacteria again, you'll try to use with targeted supplements and foods and herbs and spices that are like natural antimicrobials to reduce, bring down levels, and then go through a restoration phase whereby you would then try to instill back to the gut more beneficial strains of bacteria. So, like the use of prebiotics and probiotics to help populate the gut bacteria to a healthy balance again. And it's about understanding that I've had so many people reach out to me and they're like, yeah, but I can just buy this supplement off Amazon that says it's for gut health. I'm like, please just understand that this is not a pill. It's about a framework and following like just a guide to doing it in a stage by stage thing. It's not a jump, like you don't climb a ladder by jumping to the top rung. You have to climb it rung by rung. And as much as people don't want to hear that, that's the way that you're going to get probably the best result, because then you can track it and actually see where we're seeing improvement and understand that yes, sometimes it's going to be really tough to follow like an elimination diet, but for those 4 to 6 weeks in a good case of doing so, and it greatly reduces your inflammation, it greatly reduces your bloating, your pain, your discomfort, to then order to help target any specific opportunistic bacteria species. Was it worth it? I'd imagine, yeah. And it's all about these temporary sacrifices sometimes we have to make, because what we've been doing has made us sick in the first instance. And I can't remember who said it, but it's a great stoic quote of, if a man's not willing to give up what made him sick in the first instance, then he's not ready to be healed.
Great quote.
And it's a great quote. Great quote.
Mm, yeah, I think as well. Adding on to that, I think and summing up sort of one of the main lessons, you know, you're trying to put out about fitness and improving your health, about you should take the difficult, long, approach, the
Yeah,
continue work. Because the thing is with that as well, over these quick fixes, is once you do get that established into your daily routine, eating the right foods, doing the right exercise, what you love and enjoy as well, it's hard to, because it's so hard to get into your lifestyle, it's then so hard to get out of your lifestyle. So
yeah,
when you do get over that initial hurdle of the difficult, um, incorporation of these healthy foods and lifestyle, exercises, it's so hard to get out. So you'll be able to keep it up so well and maintain it once you do kind of get that grasp of it. Whereas these quick fixes, it's like, it will be hard to keep up in terms of, it's almost like a. Have you ever watched the movie Limitless,
yeah,
where he
yeah,
takes a pill to make him clever?
yeah,
Those sort of things, they're difficult to, you know, to keep a hold of, and eventually half of them your body will probably get used to it, and if you're burning the end of the candle of the thing that's making you sick, like you were saying,
yeah,
then it's not going to work out in the end. So I think that I definitely learned a lot about health from you today. The last thing I wanted to talk about as the last sort of topic is actually something a bit different, and it's posting on LinkedIn. So I
yeah,
found you through LinkedIn, a lot of your LinkedIn content, and I think LinkedIn's really becoming a great app for a lot of not just work content, but content that can just improve your mental, your physical health, so then you can perform better at work, I suppose. Um, so when did you actually start get engaging with LinkedIn yourself? How did that come
Ooh.
across, and what was, yeah.
Yeah. I jumped on it, I think, early 2020s, and then didn't really grasp it. So I had a break from it for probably 12 months, because my content was here, there, and everywhere. Like, and I know social media is like like a university course in its own right for what's involved in it and understanding how to utilize it and leverage it. And then it's only really been these past 12 months that I've took it really quite seriously. And I prefer it a lot more than Instagram and Facebook. I'm just not the biggest fan of them platforms, even though they're necessary in the job I do and I need to use them to attract clients and put messages and content out there. But LinkedIn's different because we got to meet through LinkedIn, and I'm on this podcast because it's a genuine. I feel like it's the less tainted platform for like clickbaity things, and it's actually people sharing genuine interest, genuine good information, trying to help leverage people and provide insight in what they specialize in. So I actually really like the platform. It's just a shame that you've like I'm a premium subscriber and you bloody pay for the privilege. But apart from that, it's I think it's what sets it apart, and you can even do like the audio events on it, which are fantastic. There's just so many good little features to it, and it'd be nice, I think, if they added in, especially for like the likes of myself, like a stories feature like they have on Instagram. I think that would work phenomenally well on the platform personally, because then you could show people the segregation of professionalism and then your everyday other life, like what you do in your day to day life, because you can't really show it that often on LinkedIn otherwise, apart from if you start posting 5-6 times a day, and nobody likes that type of person because it just becomes spammy. So I think if they introduce something like that, it'd be really quite good, but we'll see. But yeah, it's a great platform. I enjoy using it.
I agree. I think the main thing that stood out there as well is that I think everyone's on there to improve themselves, not to show off, that sort of thing. You do actually get some people there to show off, but the
Yeah,
majority of people on there, compared to most of the apps, to generally share good content or gain value to, help them work on themselves and improve themselves. Whereas a lot of the other apps, such as Instagram, TikTok, that sort of thing, it's purely entertainment or showing off, sort of,
yeah,
mostly anyway, sort of content. So you're more likely to network with people that are in the same sort of mindset as you, looking to improve themselves. Hence why me and you are having a conversation here today. Like you said, we're
yeah,
both individuals that are looking to improve ourselves. Um, I'm quite wary, as I said at the start. My laptop battery's going, so I'll have one quick more question on LinkedIn, and then we'll almost wrap it up there. But it's been brilliant so far, Tom. Um, what sort of tips would you give to people that are looking to build a platform on LinkedIn or build a presence on LinkedIn? And what sort of tips have you learned through trying it yourself?
I think the biggest one for me is understand that you're not going to please everybody. So don't feel shy to be your authentic self. That is my biggest piece of advice. Just show up as you, present your own thoughts, share your own passions. Don't do something just because you think it's going to like go more beneficial for you. Attract your kind of person by how you are and how you live your life. And if you've got a passion and you can turn it into creating a profession out of it, pursue it relentlessly. Just, show up on the platform daily, leave comments on people's posts, try and provide good information, insight, and just literally bring your own message to the platform. Don't copy other people. Really basic, but there's a lot of power in people. People connect with people depending on how they perceive them to actually show up. So instead of trying to be a people pleaser, show up and just provide as much value and insight in what you specialize in, and build a network. Talk to people, have conversations, engage on their posts, even if you don't get much on yours. Just keep putting bait out there in the fishing pond, and you'll get a bite at some point, and that's what matters.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the authenticity thing you can just apply to life, really. If you are trying to put your own message across that you truly believe and it's yourself, whether it's on LinkedIn or in everyday conversations, you'll always get negative feedback from people. But if you can be your authentic self, you you know it's the best way to battle against that negativity, against what you're
Yeah,
putting out there. As long as you know that came from you and that isn't you trying to be something, then yeah, I definitely see that as the best battle um,
yeah,
against the sort of negativity you can get from LinkedIn, and the best way to also build a platform so people can see right through it, and also the
yeah,
best way to keep it up because you might have to keep up something if it really is authentic. But yeah, Tom, that has been a cracking episode. I've actually learned so much, and you've also changed my viewpoint of how much I prioritize my holistic health. And it's something I'm actually going to start looking into a bit more in terms of looking after my gut health,
awesome.
particularly. And also, I think I'm going to start, yeah, just thinking about more reading up online, I think, to begin with, how I can improve my overall
Yeah,
health. So you've made, you're saying earlier, if you can make a difference to one person watching this, that'd be great. I think you've made a difference to me, and I'm not even a person that's watching it. So um,
no, awesome, Jack,
yeah, it's been
awesome.
really good. So I've really enjoyed having you on, Tom.
Yeah, this has been a real honour to be invited on. So thank you very much. And by all means, anyone's ever got any questions, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm sure it'll probably be in the description
Yeah,
of the event. And I wish nothing but the best to this platform, Jack. And I genuinely hope it does take off, because it's nice to have somebody that's at grassroots level having good conversations with people. So yeah,
yeah, Tom. Thank you.